The history of the U.S.S. Olympia. The U.S.S. Olympia, C-6, was launched November 5, 1892. She would be commissioned at Union Iron Works in San Francisco, California on February 5, 1895. Considered a state-of-the-art man-of-war. She would be 344 feet long, 53 feet wide, and have a displacement of 5,870 tons. Her crew complement would be 33 officers, along with 396 enlisted men. Her top speed would be 22 knots, and at her peak speed, she would be able to consume 633 pounds of coal every minute. Cruiser Olympia rose to fame as Commodore, later Admiral, George Dewey's flagship during the Battle of Manila. The Battle of Manila Bay was on May 1, 1898. This battle not only marked the beginning of the Spanish-American War, but also positioned America's Navy as a world power. The Battle of Manila Bay, also known as the Battle of Cavite, took place on May 1, 1898, during the Spanish-American War. The American Asiatic Squadron under Commodore George Dewey engaged and destroyed the Spanish Pacific Squadron under Rear Admiral Patricio Montojo. The battle took place in Manila Bay in the Philippines and was the first major engagement of the Spanish-American War. The battle was one of the most decisive naval battles in history and marked the end of the Spanish colonial period in Philippine history. Tensions between Spain and the United States worsened over the Spanish conduct during their efforts to quell the Cuban War of Independence, with many Americans being agitated by largely falsified reports of Spanish atrocities against the Cuban population. On January 1898, fearing the fate of American interests in Cuba due to the war, the cruiser U.S.S. Maine was dispatched to protect them. Less than a month later, the cruiser exploded while lying at anchor in Havana Harbor, killing 271 sailors on board and inflaming the American opinion, with Spain being portrayed as a culprit in the American media, regardless of the actual source of the explosion. 2 months later, war was declared. Upon the outbreak of war, the Americans realized that defeating a significant Spanish squadron then stationed in the Philippines was important to ensuring victory in the war. The U.S. Asiatic Squadron, commanded by Dewey, a veteran of the American Civil War, was dispatched to ensure success. On the 1st of May, the American squadron steamed into Manila Bay to engage with the Spanish. The Spanish, aware that they were hopelessly outgunned, made a desperate defense against the Americans. The battle was not much of a contest. With superior American naval gunnery and seamanship, ensuring the entire Spanish fleet would be sunk, the battle was hopeless. Montejo ordered his 2 protected cruisers to be scuttled to ensure that they did not fall into the hands of the Americans. The battle remains one of the most significant naval battles in American maritime history. When entering World War I, the U.S. Navy needed to protect American merchant ships from German submarine attack, without diminishing the strength of the main battle fleet. This prompted the formation of a 55-ship patrol force made up entirely of older cruisers and destroyers, many of which were Spanish-American War veterans. Because she was the most iconic and the best equipped, the Olympia was immediately selected as the flagship of the fleet, protecting the American eastern seaboard. With updated technology, including a sonar device, new weapons, and refitted radio systems, the Olympia was made ideal for patrols, convoy duty, and diplomatic opportunities. In 1918, as American troops joined their European allies, Olympia was reassigned for Atlantic convoy service, patrolling with merchant ships and troop transports. Olympia served as a shepherd watching over the ships in her care. ever ready to defend them from German U-boats as they made the perilous trip across the Atlantic. Olympia's design comes out of the period known as the New Steel Navy, an era in American ship design from the late 1880s through the early 1900s. She was one of the first ships to be equipped with refrigeration and radio communication systems, one of the first to use steam for a multitask of tasks. Of note, a Fessenden oscillator, an early sonar system, was installed in 1917. The oscillator aboard Olympia is the only example of this type of sonar still known to exist. During her career, she served as part of the Northern Expedition and brought the first armed Americans ever to land on Russian soil. Additionally, she provided humanitarian aid in the Adriatic and was discharged with dispensing food, aid, and medicine to communities affected by the flu epidemic that broke out in Europe at the end of World War I. During the span of her 27-year active career, she has seen 2 wars as well as the administration of 6 presidents. There have been thousands of Americans who served aboard as commissioned officers and enlisted sailors. Olympia's last act of service was the ceremonious transportation of the American unknown soldier of World War I from France to the United States. Olympia was chosen for this honor due to her significance as Admiral Dewey's flagship and for her near-perfect 27-year record of success. With the Navy ready to retire Olympia, it only seemed fitting that such a momentous duty would be conducted by the most famous active vessel of all time. Leaving Le Havre, France, and braving a storm and dangerous voyage across the Atlantic in October of 1921, Olympia delivered the unknown soldier in time for the anniversary of Armistice Day, November 11th, now known as Veterans Day. On that day in 1921, the unknown soldier was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery. Today, the Tomb of the Unknown is one of the most famous and symbolic memorials in the United States. Since the mid-1990s, over $10 million has been invested in Flagship Olympia to keep her stable and open to the public. Olympia retains over 75% of her original materials, including steel, wood, glass, and machinery still in working order, even after over a century. Olympia's signal bridge and pilot house have been restored and rebuilt using plans original to her previous period in service. She continues to be part of technological advances with the unique application of ceramic epoxy to her hull using a cofferdam method along her wind and water line. But much more is needed to restore Flagship Olympia to her full potential of glory. Over the next several years, Olympia will undergo a magnificent transformation. Following the necessary dredging of the Delaware River, she will be towed to a dry dock where urgent hull repair will commence. Then we will complete restoration of the ship's hull, decks, engine rooms, living quarters, galleys, and many other storage spaces. We will bring her back to her full glory with operational systems on display in real time, including the engines, electrical equipment, guns, communication systems, coaling, and cooking. Sections of the ship currently inaccessible to be open to the public will be open utilizing the very best 21st century interactive exhibit technology. Flagship Olympia has much to tell us about our national heritage and ourselves. It is critical that she not only be preserved as an important national landmark that she is, but that she be presented in a way that engages the contemporary visitor with her full importance. U.S.S. Olympia currently resides at the Independent Seaport Museum at 211 South Columbus Boulevard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19106, and is currently open to the public. I will leave a link in the description below.